This message is going to actually address something I've been writing about for the last couple of days and hounding, not hounding, harping, Lord, harping. Oh my God, harping on for the last couple of days, weeks or so now. Well, anyway, harping on, and basically, it's talking about just where we are as artists and the space that we're currently in terms of where we are with new technologies and just the woes, the highs and lows of being an artist. Because many of us are feeling the touch of the newer technologies with artificial intelligence, and some are leaning to one side of, woe is me, and I'm going to be replaced by this new technology, while others lean towards a little bit, it's new technology. It's here. It's not going anywhere. So, what can I do to embrace it and make it work for me? Personally, I'm a little bit on the latter side of things, and although I do not use technology in terms of voice stuff, I use it on the academic side of things, to get certain things started if I have questions about topics that I may not know, or have full in-depth knowledge of. So I, will do a little bit of question and insight into the topic, and then go back and do my own personal research. But when it comes to music and being an artist, what you see is what you get. Because AI technology, for the most part, has been around for ages, but it's now just getting into our hands, and it's up to us how we manage it, because there's still humans behind the technology, the algorithms, etc. You're not going to get away from the human experience and the emotions attached to humanity, no matter how much they try to do it. I believe that AI can and never will replace humans, the human experience, full stop. I think about maybe a week or two ago, Gail King did an interview of a individual behind, I think it was like on Good Morning America, or whatever show that she's on. She interviewed a woman by the name of Talisha Jones. I believe that's her name. And she's behind the AI technology of the performing artist Zanea Monet. Now, the controversy behind all of this is in the interview, she explained how Miss Jones explained how that she writes the lyrics and views Zanea as an extension of her, her identity, and she uses AI technology kind of like as a creative tool rather than it being a shortcut to what the artist is doing. So the artist, Zanea Monet itself, has recently signed $1 million record contract and landed on the Billboard charts with one of her songs, How Was I Supposed to Know? And there's a lot of artists who are up in arms because they have been putting the time, the efforts, spending a lot of money in coaching and basically honing their skills. And Gail King directly told Miss Jones, she was like, baby girl, you can't sing, but you can't sing. And with this, I cackled because I don't know Miss Jones personally or her intentions, but I am side glaring the whole thing. Side glaring the baby, just side glaring the baby. Because the controversy and debate, both from the artists and the executives and the industry, is questioning the fairness of AI technology in terms of artists, and looking at the AI technology as a form of a shortcut and competing with the human artists who have worked for years to put their time, the energy, blood, sweat, and tears into their craft. Now, on the industry side, the industry is saying something to the point of, well, it is cutting down the barriers, based upon age, image, access, blah, 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 this. And in my mind, I'm looking at it, no, how about you guys change the perceptions around image, age, and stuff, and open it and make it more diverse for people with talent. What I believe, in my honest opinion, is that the executives are scrambling really, really hard to maintain control of the industry, particularly, and the capitalism that flows through it, because that's what it's built on. And they're using AI as a way to manage all of this, because technology, depending upon whose hands it is, like I said earlier, it's either can grow a civilization or it can be its demise. So with AI technology, for them to control who gets put on the billboard, not that they haven't been doing that for years, but how the image still looks, it still can get up in terms of looking a certain kind of way and adhering to certain beauty standards. So that's not going to change. So them, talking about all these barriers, I think that's just a bunch of bullshit. And that's just my opinion. I think particularly back in the day of the singer Martha Wash, and she was an amazing, I don't think she's dead, she is an amazing singer, powerhouse voice. She was the uncredited vocals behind CNC Music's Factory, Get Up and Dance. Is it? No. Gonna Make You Sweat. Wrong song. Gonna Make You Sweat with Everybody Dance Now. She was the one. Everybody dance now. Doom, 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 doom. Okay, so you know that song. So she was the original vocals of that song. However, in the video that they made for the song, they used a model to cover up that part of the singing. They used the model's image, and had the model lip syncing those vocals. So again, we're going back to control of image, control of who gets in, who gets out, who has access, and all that. So on social media, music producer Jermaine Dupri commented, and he was like, okay, so back in the day when the group Milli Vanilli was stripped of their awards and their titles because they were found to be lip syncing, now we're coming into this modern age and time where you're saying that it's okay for AI, which is not a real person, but somebody behind that technology, to be put on billboards, to get record deals, so make it make sense. Now back to Miss Jones, bless her baby's heart, and all of the talent in the U.S. In conversation with my friend who is a singer, just like I am, we were both like, so with all the talent that's in the U.S., she couldn't find any artists to collaborate with. None, just none. Not even in the neighborhood church. So I'm questioning her intentions behind all of this. Does she truly want to be an artist who gets her craft into the world, or is it more about recognition and fame, with this path being the easiest way to get there and making it happen for herself? Because, as Gayle King said, you can't sing, baby. Because historically, there have been many artists who were talented in their own right when it comes to writing or putting music together and doing different things, but they collaborated with other artists, or they did their art under a pseudonym, allowing other more talented individuals to interpret their work. So she could have done the same thing. But something about this individual, Miss Jones, does not seem genuine to me personally. Something about her rise has me having a color purple moment, seriously. And I'm like, Harpo, who this woman? Who this woman for real? Like, I've watched the interview, and something about it causes me to pause for a moment. I believe, and this is again me, I believe that she may be an industry plant to push AI into the artist space. Because again, it's still the executives able to control things and make them happen in their own way. I personally believe and feel that within my heart of hearts, there is currently a great shift happening globally. And in the book the death of the artists, how artists are struggling to compete, I think, no, to survive in the age of big billionaires and big tech, by William Desserich. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but certainly a good read for artists who are in this space right now. But he argues the point that, excuse me, he argues the point of AI being a means of all welcome at the table of the artists. He goes on to talk about how creativity in it is being threatened by the ease of internet access, because he's saying production is cheap and distribution is free. So you don't have to go to school. You don't have to sit up late night hours. You do not have to have the critique sessions. You don't have to go through all the woes and ups and downs of what it is to be an artist. The internet has made it accessible to any and everybody. And what he finally arrives at within the book is that everyone is not an artist, because it takes years and years of dedication and support to go into that craft. And people need to acknowledge this as real as it is, and pay the artists what they are worth. Because I think about my time before I got into the performing art space. I've always been an artist, hands up. I've always been an artist. I started off in design school doing painting. I initially wanted to go for graphic design because it was really big at the time, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. But then I shifted over, still staying within the College of Design, but shifted over into painting and fell in love with painting. And that shit, oh my God, loved it to death. But being an artist, and anybody can tell you this, whether you're a dancer, a singer, a visual artist, that shit's expensive as fuck. Oh my God. The paints, the paintbrushes, the canvases, easily, let's just start on the paints, the high quality paint, easily can set you back a couple of hundreds. And then for me, because I used to love doing big paintings, let's not even talk about that. And I'm still here, hallelujah, glory. But people need to understand that putting the time and dedication into being an artist, when artists say that this is what this painting is worth, or this is the cost that they give you, and sometimes a lot of artists do lowball themselves when they first start out because we just don't know. But when artists say this is what it is, pay the artist. No negotiating, no. The craft is expensive as fuck, like on everything. Pay artists what they're worth. And what artists need to realize and acknowledge is that they have more power to wield than they realize. I think of the Writers Guild, maybe a year, 2 or 3 ago, and how they went on strike so that executives in Hollywood would not have full access to their likeness, meaning their videos, their voices, their images, etc. But I think that we've allowed those promoters, the executives, venue owners, who ultimately are businessmen, capitalists, we have allowed them so much presence over us, so much power over us, and they have gained it. They have taken it and ran with it. And we've given them power to our artistry. We've given them power to our stories, and that's a problem. I think of a recent experience I had in Ireland at the Cork Jazz Festival. Also connecting it to my experiences in the blues when I go to different festivals, and speaking about the erasure of artists who have contributed greatly to the craft, and how the festivals don't want their talent. And I'm going to get more direct and more specifically. Artists that look like me. Artists with my skin tone. When we talk about erasure, when I go to a lot of these festivals, I may be the only black person there at some of them, not all of them, but you can count perhaps on one hand how much black talent is at these festivals, and that's a problem. And many people want to talk about, in this instance, that music is the great unifier, which I agree, but yet not by their original talent, especially if they're black, especially if they're black. So thinking about the experience that I had at Cork, went up there to see my brothers perform. Amazing talent, hypnotic brass ensemble, and they have been going back and forth and making a name throughout Europe for a long time. Particularly at this festival, the customer service in some of the venues was not up to par, and treated them as if they were secondhand artists. And they have been going up here for 10 plus years, and they took it personal, which they should. And going around the city, we saw a lot of other musicians' talents who were imitating their sound. And like I said, they took it personal, as they should, because they had built a name for themselves. They had been putting the work, the time, and effort in to make their sound, their music, their craft do what it do. And now when they're going to these different festivals, and like I said, when I go to do Blues Festival, they're subtly being pushed out. Oh, we want the sound, we want the crowds, we want the audience, but we just don't want it when you bring it. And that's a problem. They're conveniently finding ways, and not to say that this has not been historically a thing. They're conveniently finding a way to imitate the craft and create something off of the original blueprint without giving credit back to the originator or its culture, especially if it's black, and God forbid if it's a woman. And we got problems with that. And I'm not going to dig deep into race conversations and be white against black. Not going to do that. I'm talking about what is currently happening in the United States, and even more so on a global perspective to some point. Erasure of black people is a thing. It just is. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, it is what it is. We're fighting now to tell our stories amidst all of these erasures, and get paid for what we're worth, get paid for the royalties, the credit, and all of that is due us. I'm reading a book now in the moment, and it's titled Black AF History by Michael Harriot. And it's an excellent read. Another book you should check out. I love my books. And in one of the chapters, he talks about the bus boycotts that lasted about 300 and some plus days. I know it was well over a year. And I understand with this AI technology that artists want to not have to go the route of the contracts and fighting with industry executives and their work being stolen and all that. And there will always be new artists who just want a shot on stage. So they will choose the AI route and learn this talent and be able to promote themselves. And then you will have the artists who are banding together and be like, we're not gonna get into these venues and promote and do all this other stuff until you pay us what we are worth. And I think it is warranted. I think the artists need to boycott, because if you don't stand up for your artistry, if you don't take rightfully what is yours and go after it, you allow anybody and anything to take it from you, and you'll be sitting there bitter and pissed off at the world. And we don't need no more pissed off people. We already got enough foolishness happening in the world. That's another conversation. But we as artists need to take control of what's happening. I think all artists need to band together and take control of the narrative. These venue owners, these promoters, once we stand together, they'll lose their hold, because what are they going to do without us? We're the talent, which is why I think, going back to Miss Talisha Jones, this AI technology and it being put on the billboards and all that, I think that these executives are behind it, because if they have something like that, they don't have to deal with our personalities. They don't have to deal with, oh, you don't want to sing and perform today? Okay, we got a machine to do it for you. All right, go ahead, let it happen. But what you're going to do is, you're not going to have the humanity behind it. You're not going to have the human emotion, the human experience. And COVID showed us that there are new ways for artists to promote themselves and get their work out there. And I'm forward. However, if we're growing, these executives need to be growing and getting around us and supporting us, because they're making money off of us. And we need to make the money that rightfully belongs to us. So I think that, like I said, I'm not opposed to this technology. It is what it is. It's here. It comes down to whoever is behind the technology and whoever is doing the technology. But ultimately, it comes down to us as artists taking ownership and gatekeeping rightfully what belongs to us. And I think it's an important thing that once one of us start doing it, more of us start doing it, and telling these promoters, these bigwig executives, what you're not going to do, I think that we'll be in a good space, and this great shift is turning things around in the tide for us. So I think it's a good thing. I think we're headed in the right direction, and let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what you think.